Hello, everyone. Just before we really get into the show here, I wanted to preface something real quick. That being that when you look into the description of this episode, there's a link saying that you can send in a voice message if you want to, have your voice out there on the show. If you have something to say, whether it be a question or even a comment, feel free to drop a voice message and you might get featured in one of our episodes here. There's also a Q&A and a poll down there as well, so go and check those out if you have any interest. Anyways, let's get into the show. Welcome back, everyone, to the Closet Cast, the podcast that I used to do in my closet, but not anymore, as I am on what is the more permanent home of the recording of this podcast, that being a corner of my bedroom. There used to not be too much space here, but I moved some things around, put down 2 chairs, have a little bookcase here. My desk is right here. You can see a little bit of the clutter on it, but it gets a lot worse the deeper down you go. So thank God you can't really see the clutter, because it's not great whatsoever. So anyways, today is a solo episode. As you can see, I got both cameras on me, probably for the first time on this podcast. And we'll see if it's going to be the only time or not. But yeah, I've wanted to do a solo episode for a little bit. I didn't really know if I was going to do one this soon into things, but I was going to have a guest on, and then his time, it first seemed like it was going to match up, and then it didn't. That guest being Thomas, the guy who I was saying was going to come on at the end of the podcast with Seiji last time, but our times just didn't match up, where I was going to do one with him like Saturday afternoon or something, and he was free at first, but then something came up. So he couldn't do anything that afternoon. So we are rescheduling, and we'll probably be having his episode air in a couple of weeks. Now, anyways, this episode, I do want to cover a few things that are on the heavier side, things that I've wanted to talk about on this podcast, but don't necessarily know how to talk about them with a guest on the podcast. So those are a few things. Those are, I want to talk about my personal coming out story. So as something that not all the listeners know, I don't know if all the listeners know or not, I am bisexual. And that's something I was not open about for a very, very long time. And I feel like as somebody who's going through that questioning, coming out phase, whatnot, it's good to kind of get all these different stories of how people came out. And I want to tell mine. I want to just put mine out there. That way, if somebody is questioning, or if somebody just kind of wants to understand how people come out, or like what's the process behind it, almost like how do you know, you're whatever, like I kind of want to go through that a little bit. I want to talk about drugs. I'm laughing at it because it's funny, just because like I didn't think that would be something that I'd talk about on this podcast, but there were there have been a couple of times where friends of mine who have been a little younger will like go to me and they'll be like, "Hey, Logan, what do I do about like drugs? Like what should I do if I'm at something and they're around, like whatever." And I feel like that's a very good question. I'm not the best person to answer that at all, but I mean, I might as well put my answer to that question on the podcast. And then the other thing I want to talk about is, or other two things I want to talk about. I want to talk about kind of what to look for on a college tour, as I've actually just come back from 2 college tours. Yesterday at like 4:00, I left my home in Connecticut and drove about 4 hours to Ithaca in New York. Stayed at a hotel there overnight, toured Ithaca College this morning at 9. Then drove there from, toward the college, then left my tour to go and tour the communications building. And I'll go into that story later on. And then left Ithaca, left that, toured Syracuse, and then toured the Syracuse communications building, and then drove home. So I've had a long day of driving, or like the past 30 hours, I think like a quarter of it, I did the math or something, like a quarter of it at least I have spent driving. And I don't want to complain about it too much, because I am grateful to be able to drive right now, like with how expensive gas is and whatnot, like to be able to go and drive all the way up to Ithaca, then Syracuse, and then all the way back to where I live, given gas prices right now, is a blessing to be able to do that and be completely financially comfortable with doing that. It's a fucking blessing. And I'm really happy I was able to do that and able to tour these schools. So I don't want to complain too much, but God, it is a lot of driving. My legs feel very funky. And my stomach does not feel too great. I don't know what it was that I ate. I think it might have been a Philly cheesesteak. And it was good too. It was a good Philly cheesesteak. But I don't know. Apparently there's something funky in it, because my stomach is not feeling great right now. I want to die. But I know if I just lie down, it's still going to feel this awful. So I might as well record a podcast and do something that's kind of productive, you know? So anyways, and then the last thing I want to talk about, I want to make this last because obviously I don't want to make this podcast about movies, but that's something I'm very interested in anyways. So I want to talk about movies, and so I want to talk about Nope and Bullet Train, 2 movies that I saw a couple of days ago, and I wanted to make an actual YouTube video about them, but I just don't have the time to really do that, to like go and edit a YouTube video and then edit a podcast for this week. That's just, I don't have time for that. So I'm just going to notch it on at the end of the podcast. And if you want to stay and listen to it, go for it. If you have absolutely no interest, please do not listen to any of it. I don't want to like anyone sitting through stuff that they're not interested in. So, without further ado, let's start with, we'll start with drugs. I don't know why I feel like it's funny. I just feel like drugs, you know, it's just like funny. I did not think I'd talk about this kind of stuff on my podcast. So that's why the whole thing's funny to me. Then we'll talk about college. Then we'll talk about me coming out. Then we'll talk about movies to finish the episode off. So anyways, yeah, everyone sit back, do whatever you're doing, get some popcorn, whatever. And yeah, so let's talk about drugs. So the question that I get asked is like I was saying earlier, you know, what do you do when you're in a situation where drugs are around? You know, should you do them? Should you not do them? You know, how much should you do? Whatever. And let me just preface that I don't really recommend, if you haven't been around that stuff at all, to jump into anything crazy. Like I'm saying, like set weed as a bar, and really, like, unless you really feel comfortable exceeding that, never exceed it, you know, because that's just a bar. And what's below weed, tobacco, or really it's weed, alcohol, or maybe alcohol people say is above weed, but just there's like this tier of three: alcohol, weed, tobacco. Stick in that tier. To me, that's a big recommendation I can give. Really stick there. Okay, so when it comes to drugs, right, I'm going to give you three sort of mindset steps to go through. All right, or kind of four, more three, kind of four. So first step one is that you want to make sure that it's genuinely something that you are interested in trying out, and that you are not being peer pressured, that nobody is going to you and being like, dude, we got to do this. We got to do this, when really deep inside you don't want to do this. But they are making you feel like you have to, like it's a requirement in your life. Like you cannot proceed in your life without intoxicating yourself, without fueling yourself with drugs, with alcohol, tobacco, weed, whatever the fuck. That is not the case. You do not have to do this. It is completely unhealthy if that is how you feel. And if you feel that in any sort of way, do not take drugs or any sort of measure like that. It will only leave you with a bit of pain, like that. You're going to feel like you betrayed yourself. I did not have that experience with drugs specifically. I had that experience with other aspects of my life, which I feel like are important aspects, and I am not going to share them on the show at this point. Maybe it's a story for a different episode, but I'm just going to say you never want to put yourself in that scenario. Okay, number two is that, all right, you are comfortable doing them. You're not being peer pressured. This is something that you want to try out. Now, obviously, you don't have to take my word for it. You don't at all. But from what I've kind of figured out, from what I can recommend, and I cannot say that I have tried anything aside from what I call like sort of the safer tier. I don't think drugs are inherently safe at all. There are bad qualities about them completely. I'd also like to say, like, I'm not counting stuff like caffeine as a drug. That's technically a drug. Technically, you drink coffee, you're fucking doing drugs. You take medication, you're fucking doing drugs. I'm not counting that. I mean, like, genuine, like, what you're going to take at a party. You're not going to go to a party and see, like, a bunch of people sipping their coffee and being like, oh my God, dude, oh my God. Like, no, you're not going to see that. Maybe you'll see that on, like, Red Bull. But, chances are you're going to find Red Bull mixed with alcohol. And that's the drug. Alcohol's the drug. It's not the caffeine, it's the alcohol. So what I call the safer tier: alcohol, weed, tobacco. Now listen, if you are not comfortable with doing any of those, if you feel like you were being peer pressured into doing them, please do not do them. But if that is genuinely what you're comfortable with, I strongly recommend just stay within that tier. A lot of times I've heard stories just about how people that have done other things really, like, they feel great after, doing things like heroin, like cocaine, like whatever. But then a few years down the line, they regret it to high hell. Whether it be because that made them do some weird shit that then got recorded and, put around, and suddenly, people don't like them because they, like, did these drugs and said stupid shit, or, like, did stupid shit or whatever because they were on these drugs, or just because, they ended up getting addicted. And yeah, so what I really advise is stay within those three. Again, alcohol, weed, tobacco. Now, moving on, moving on to step 3 is, unless the drugs are yours in this situation, right? Unless you are the one bringing stuff, and you didn't get them from someone else, like you got them directly from like the box, from the container, whatever, like they have not been touched by somebody else except like shipping and handling, you know, wait until other people have done them before you do them yourself. Say that there's like punch or something, right? With like alcohol in that. Wait until a few other people have had the punch. See how drunk they're getting, whatever, because for all you know, this punch, this like lemonade, whatever, it's mixed with like Everclear, and Everclear, it's like fucking grain alcohol. It's used to set shit on fire, but people mix it in like big drinks because it's a lot of alcohol. Like the alcohol percentage is insane. I don't know it off the top of my head. I think it's above 60% alcohol or something like that. So yeah, if you just like be careful, because that stuff will get you really fucked up really quickly. And unless you are comfortable with that, then I highly suggest, just waiting a little bit, or, look at carts, look at, edibles, weed brownies, anything like that. Those can be laced. So just wait a little bit, see a few other people try these edibles, see a few other people smoke these carts, right? And after, half an hour to an hour, if their effects, right, seem a little like, just they don't seem that bad, you're seeing how they're acting, you're like, all right, yeah, I'm comfortable with me being like this, then fucking send it, dude. Fucking send it. But don't go that far in, because you don't want to green out, or with alcohol, you don't want to black out. With tobacco, from what I know, tobacco products don't really get laced. I mean, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I know that movie that had like acid cigarettes. I've never seen that in my life before. Like, in reality, I'm sure that if you come across acid cigarettes, it will be clear that they are acid cigarettes. I doubt that they'll be like, I doubt that the acid cigarettes will, like, be disguised as regular cigarettes. Highly doubt something like that would happen to you. But yeah, just again, be careful. Watch other people take these drugs. Let them take the risk. And once you see the effects on them, if you are cool with you being like that, send it. Send it. And I mean, my final tip, and this isn't necessarily something where like I think is that big of a deal. Like in this doesn't really have to do with your first time doing things, drug related. This is more of a generalization, and that is, don't own any. Don't go out of your way to buy carts. Don't go out of your way to buy cigarettes or whatever for yourself. Try not to do that unless you are really not an addictive person at all. Like, I know for me, I could never really own stuff like that, just because like I know I have an addictive personality because I've binge ate before. I've had that problem. I've gotten addicted to stuff like sugar, So if I can't handle sugar, or if I couldn't handle sugar, how the fuck can I handle alcohol? How the fuck can I handle nicotine? I know weed you don't really get addicted to as much, but with weed it's more of a, you start loving that feeling so much where you just keep doing it because you're like, I like being high more than I like being sober. So I'm going to do weed. And I guess technically people say like, oh, you can't get addicted to weed, but you can just get in a mindset where you'd rather be high than sober. And if you own a cart, if you own, weed or whatever, you own edibles, you might be taking that stuff enough to a point where, hey, you are not getting, like you are not being sober that much in your life anymore. So yeah, again, just like be cautious about owning stuff. Most of the people that I know that have owned stuff have ended up getting addicted in some sort of way. And that's a problem. I don't mean to call anybody out, but that's the reality that it faces. And yeah, so really, you want no harm? Don't own anything. That's advice for you right there. So yeah, that I don't even know what else to say. Let's move on. Let us move on, fellas, to the second topic of today. That being, what do you want to look for when you tour a college? I think a big thing for me, and not my parents, I think just like one of my parents, they aren't a big fan of this, but I'm like, why the hell aren't you a big fan of this? That being, look at how happy people are. If you're touring a college while it's in session, look at people's faces. See how happy they are. Get a feel of what's going on here. If people look generally unhappy, why the fuck do you want to go there? You're just going to be putting yourself through misery, all right? You're in college. You're going to be going to college. You ask people what the best years of their life were, you know what they say? Most of them say fucking college. So why do you want to waste that being unhappy? I get that you have dreams and aspirations of doing whatever you want to do, but college is supposed to be some of the best years of your entire life. So why waste that? You want to go to a school that you're happy at. I'm not saying go to like a party school. If you don't like that kind of stuff, don't go to a party school. But just go to a school where people are happy. If you see something high, like if you see suicide rates are high, if you see that, I think it's literally a happiness rating or something like that. If you see that that's pretty low, really like put up the red flags, start waving them at the school, because like, why do you want to go there if so many people are obviously unhappy? Why risk that? You could be happy at the school 100%, but do you really want to risk that? And I know you can transfer out, but that still means you're stuck at the school for a year. Anyways, moving on to what else to look for on a tour. I mean, definitely try to see where your major is going to be housed, in what building is your major going to be housed. See what kind of benefits these buildings have. I know for a lot of the schools I've toured, I want to major in film. And film, for most of these schools, does not have its own building. It is housed in a School of Communications within the university or college I am touring. So, look at your designated school within the university or college and really look at the facilities, see just how you feel about it, and also be a little nitpicky. If you look around at schools and you see all of them are doing one thing except, one other school, kind of be like, why is this one school not doing that when all of the other schools are doing that? I feel like they're cutting corners. That just doesn't make sense. And I think that in some cases it's reasonable, like the case of USC. When you make a movie at USC owns that. And that's something that on all of my tours at film schools in California, they would all be like, hey, you make movies here, you get to own it. And that's like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, fuck you, USC. That's like their way of saying that, right? And really, really, I'm not saying that it's bad that you own your own content at all. And if you really feel like that you need to own what you make, like 100%, then yeah, you know, don't go to a school like USC. But USC has crazy, crazy resources. Spielberg and George Lucas have donated immensely to the school. They also have an insane amount of alumni, like, and I'm talking specifically about film here, but this is an example of just like, if there are other schools that are sort of picking at one school for not doing something that they are doing, or if you notice that one school is not doing something that all these other schools are doing, look into it and see why that is. So I remember after all of these tours at all these schools that were kind of like picking on USC for not letting you own your own film, I talked to a few USC students when I did tour USC, and I was like, hey, like, how do you feel about not being able to own your own content? And all of them were saying how they didn't mind it, how, when people's films do really well and someone wants to buy it from USC, you still get a cut of it. It's not like USC is going to, say, screw you and take the whole thing. You still get a cut of this film when it gets sold. You're just not getting everything, which kind of makes sense. They are providing you the amazing facilities, the technology that no other school can provide you. Like, all the schools have state-of-the-art technology, all these film schools. But USC has state-of-the-art of state-of-the-art. Like, what they are going to have for you is on a whole other level than all the other schools. And that's, something that you have to think about a little bit, And also for me, just because the school has all the number one state of the art of the state of the art tech and whatnot, don't let that make you think, oh, I have to go to that school. That school has to be my number one. Think about other factors. Think about the campus. Think about the student life. Again, think about the happiness. And something that really, what did raise a red flag for me about a school like USC was not the, oh, I can't own what I make at USC. It's the, oh, when going to extracurriculars, I cannot just show up. I have to apply. And I have to go through an application process to get into these extracurriculars. To me, that is a red flag there about USC. And you'll see that in Ivy League schools and a lot of very prestigious schools. When you want to do an extracurricular, it is application based. You cannot just walk in. You must be accepted. And that can be a little disheartening, especially as a freshman, I'm sure, like going to school being like, oh, I'm here, I've done it, I've made it. And then you realize, oh, now I need to apply to clubs. Like that's just a little thing that a lot of people probably wouldn't be a big fan of. Like, for me, that's personally not like a downside immensely. Like, getting into USC, like, oh my God, that's getting into USC. That's insane. USC for film is like, it's like Harvard, like Yale, like Harvard. It's like that tier in the realm of film. But USC does not have to be my number one, but it also doesn't have to suddenly be at the bottom. It like, just because there's some flaws, just kind of think about things, balance them out a little bit. I hope what I'm saying is making sense, because I'm almost losing track of myself a little bit here. But yeah, anyways, I think that was a really, really long ramble. And the other thing is just kind of think about location, think about the type of people there, look at the demographics, and just think about like, all right, are you comfortable in this location? Are you happy with the weather? And look at the demographics. Are you happy with those demographics? Like, I sorry about that. And if you are happy with all those things, then great. But just be sure that you are like comfortable in that type of environment, whatever environment your prospective college/university may be. And yeah, so that wraps up my little college spiel. I mean, listen, I am not a pro on any of these things I'm talking about here, but I feel like I want to give my perspective. That way it's out there. That way hopefully it can help someone. I hope what I've talked about has helped somebody, at least one person. And okay, so let's dive in to the final, heavy, serious topic of this episode. That being, me coming out. That's a harder story for me to talk about, honestly. I probably should have planned out how I wanted to talk about this before the episode, because this is a little heavier for me. Because I was just like, all right, I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it, but I didn't plan it out. And I do really, in hindsight, I really wish I did. Because fuck, suddenly after saying it, I got like very anxious. So me coming out. I mean, I've had a genuine attraction for both genders. I mean, really, I say I'm bisexual. I'm probably pansexual. I'm still trying to understand and completely wrap my mind around, the development of, more than just male, female. And I'm totally open to it. I'm not trying to say I'm not open to it, because I completely am. I am so happy that we are, as a society, becoming more accepting to more people. But my perspective is just like, I want to be able to understand it more. I want to know more people that aren't just cis. I want to know more people that identify as something else that's not a man or a woman. Or I want to meet more, people that identify as non-binary or some other pronoun, or, people that are transgender, and kind of understand like the thought process behind that, because that's not a thought process that I have gone through in my life. I've just gone through a thought process of what I am attracted to, or sorry, I mean more who I am attracted to. And in that case, I 100% know I am attracted to both men and women. And I say that in full confidence at this point of my life. And I'm very happy to finally be able to say that in full confidence, because for a really long time, I was not able to say that in full confidence. I was always like, gay sex is disgusting, and, like men, blah, 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 like, or like just like make jokes about like gay stuff or whatever, when in reality, deep down, I kind of always knew. I was like, well, that is how I am. I just don't know how to tell people about it. Or like, I think that might be how I am. Because for a while I was questioning. I think I started questioning in elementary school because, you know, I'd had my fair share of crushes throughout, or not even I think maybe even younger. But I'll just say elementary school because that's like the most concrete, almost level where I feel like I was like really wrapping my mind around, like my brain was developed enough to realize I am not just attracted to women, unlike, you know, my dad. As an example, because like at that point, like someone like him was my role model in that way, or just like any sort of male actor or whatever, like athletes and whatnot, like they were all straight men. So I felt very different and couldn't wrap my head around that until about elementary school. Because elementary school, I developed a full-fledged crush for a guy. And this was a crush that I was kind of on and off with for years. And it was deep down, but it was always there. I was always like, well, listen, if that guy ever seemed to not just be a straight person at all, like, amazing. You know, like I would date that guy in a heartbeat. Like that was my thought process. And I had that for a long, long time. But it was something that anytime it came up in my mind, I was not comfortable with it. You know, I was like, that's so disgusting. Like, and I pushed it down deep inside of me and just kind of let it sit there. And I didn't let myself, you know, embrace it. You know, I felt repulsed by myself for the longest time because I didn't have anybody in my life, or at least I thought I didn't have anybody in my life who was not a straight person, until I learned that my aunt, all those girl friends, like just friends who were girls that she'd been hanging out with, and that like she'd take us to restaurants with and whatnot, they weren't friends, they were partners of hers at the time. And that was my first realization, like, oh shit, this isn't something that like you'll see a little bit on like Twitter or like Reddit or YouTube or whatever. Like, this is real. There are people like this. She was my first bit of exposure to that. And I am so, so grateful to have had that exposure, because I think that if I didn't, I would still be where I was like 3 years ago. But with her exposure, it became more normalized to me. And I started questioning it to a point where summer after my freshman year, I actually told someone about it. And I told one person I was bisexual, and I told other people that I was questioning it, because I didn't know how these people would react just about me questioning it. I wanted to test the waters. But this one person I trusted so much, so fucking much. And I thought, if there's one person I'm going to tell about this, it's going to be them. They're going to react good. And then I'm going to feel confident about it. And then I am going to tell the other people I told I was questioning that, no, I'm not actually questioning. I am bisexual. I just kind of wanted to get a feel for how you reacted to me saying that I am questioning. But the issue is that the one person I really trusted, I could tell, the one person who I was like, they are certainly going to be okay with this, they're going to be supportive, yada, 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 they were not. And that person was my girlfriend at the time. Kind of a girlfriend. It was a weird circumstance. I can't remember exactly anymore, like if we were actually dating or if we were like friends with benefits, whatever the fuck we were. But, you know, my partner at the time, she didn't react well. She heard me say this and then started assuming that me being attracted to men meant that whenever I was with her in a physical way, I was picturing a man. Like anytime I kissed her, I was thinking I was like kissing Brad Pitt, rather than kissing her or like whatever the hell. That was how she reacted to it. And let me be clear, I was a rising sophomore. She was a rising freshman. So us being so young, especially like she was a rising freshman, and I don't think that she's that kind of a person now. I'm not saying that that's how she is now, but when you are that young, sometimes it's hard for you to wrap your mind around that kind of stuff and be able to understand it in a mature way. And obviously at the time, she was not able to understand it in a mature way at all, which I was not expecting, because I thought that she would have been able to, but she didn't, and I wish I expected that. But yeah, I didn't at all. I thought that it was going to go great. I thought that it was going to go off without a hitch. She would react positively, and then I'd tell my other friends about it, and that at this point in my life, I would be far beyond where I actually am now. Like where I am now, I was hoping I'd be going into sophomore year. But instead, I'm here going into my senior year, 2 years delayed. And that's because that once she reacted this way, I closeted myself back up for a year and a half, pretty much. And again, I want to preface, I'm not saying that this is who she is as a person now. I am saying that this is who she was as a person then. This is how she reacted. And it's a fact. Because at one point she apparently, like, I had a different ex-girlfriend who I'd told the story and then told it to this first ex-girlfriend as I was saying that she was homophobic, like she was still a homophobic person. But I didn't mean to say it in that way. I meant to say it in a way of, this is how she reacted then. I don't know how she is now. I don't give a fuck about how she is now. That's explicit, but honestly, I could give less of a fuck. I could give less of a shit. I'm just going to be blunt about it. So anyways, after this, I didn't mention my sexuality or anything like that, like at all, to anybody after she reacted this way. Until last last January or February, I think it was. I think February. Yeah, I think it was February, because what I remember was I told one friend who I knew was bi. I knew he was already bi. He was already coming out, or like had already came out. And I actually want to bring him on this podcast at some point. And I told him because I was like, well, I want to get a good reaction. I want to get somebody to just like react well. And I want to just be like, do you have like any, like, I wanted to ask him, like, how did you come out to people? Or I think I asked him something like that. I can't completely remember. I think I told him I was pan at the time, actually. And again, I probably am pan, but I'm more comfortable with saying I'm bi just because I am not fully well-versed in, the new gender norms, and I don't want to, say I am attracted to something that I just don't, know about yet, because I don't completely have my mind understanding the difference between, certain genders, and I want to be able to understand that before saying that I am attracted to say like non-binary people. Like if you see a non-binary person who biologically is male or biologically is female, I want to be able to associate that person as a non-binary person rather than be like, in the back of my mind, still associating them as their biological sex, you know? So once I am in that mindset, then I will comfortably say I am pansexual. But for now, I'm still just going to say I am bisexual because of that. So yeah, and I hope that's not an offensive thing. I hope that's not. I don't think it is, right? I don't think that's a bad thing. But that is my mindset, and if that is a bad thing, I am very sorry. But that's my mindset. So, anyways, I tell my boyfriend. He reacts well, gives me a little bit of advice. So I think the second person I tell is was my girlfriend at the time. And so this is the girlfriend who told my first ex-girlfriend that I was calling her homophobic and stuff. So I tell her this story, and she's totally cool with it. Or no, she wasn't my girlfriend at the time. It was that she was totally cool with it, and I thought that was super hot. And it was like, oh, a girl who I like is cool with me not being straight. Sorry, that's like a hiccup. It's cool with me not being straight. Oh my God, that's so hot. I have to date them now. That was my response to her being cool with me not just being a cis white guy. And that was an unhealthy response on my end, like an unhealthy reaction. And I wish I knew that at the time, but I didn't, and I ended up dating her, and that was a whole mess. Something that I can talk about in a future episode. But anyway, so I tell her about it. She's cool with it. Then I tell my friend Thomas about it, and he was so chill about it. And then, so yeah, Thomas was the third person I told about it. Then I told I wanted to call my aunt. I remember after Thomas, I was like, I'm going to call my aunt. And then I leave him, and I'm sitting in my car for 30 minutes. I remember it was like 30 minutes. I was procrastinating it, calling my aunt about it. Because I was like, I don't really want to annoy her or whatever. Even though when I did eventually tell her like a month ago, she reacted so positively, and we had really good conversations about it. And she was super, super helpful. And I knew that she'd be okay with it. I don't know why I was afraid to tell her. But again, it's perfectly okay to be afraid. You know, it's something that if you grow up in an environment where it's not completely normal and accepted to not be a cis person, it's okay to feel a little uncomfortable when you tell people that that's just not how you identify. And even if they themselves are not a cis person. So, yeah, I had a hard time actually like being able to tell her then. But I did call my other friend Marius, and I told him. I was like, hey, like, dude, I'm bisexual. And he was like, I was like, I hope you don't really see like a difference or whatever. And he was like, yeah, no, I'm totally chill. Then I think like just I told a few other people. It was just like, yeah, I'm like bisexual, whatever. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. So like I kept getting like good reactions, and it felt great. And then I told my mom. And I don't know if my mom's listening to this right now. I love you, Mom. But her reaction really hurt. Because her reaction was, I remember the exact wording was, so you want to kiss boys? It was that was what she said. And I felt so disheartened. I just kind of did my best to kill the conversation where it was standing and drop it. And I didn't bring up my sexuality to her for a while after that. And she now knows that I am bisexual and is okay with that. It's just that she reacted negatively at first because it was very unexpected. You know, it was something where I hadn't, like, she had no idea. You know, she had no inkling of a thought that I wasn't straight, just because she was used to me having all these girlfriends, and sometimes I would like have a girl over at the house or go out for hours and not come home until really late because I was hanging out with a girl or whatever. So she was just so used to that, where once I was telling her, oh, I'm also actually into dudes as well, she was like, what? So you want to kiss them? So you want to be with them? And I was like, yes, but it's very hard to tell. Like, in my mind, I was like, yes, but I just felt so uncomfortable, I couldn't actually say it. So after that kind of a reaction, yeah, I dropped it with her for a while. I think this was in like February, and I told her it again in July. So yeah, now she knows though. Now she knows. And yeah, I mean, anytime it comes up now, I'm able to tell people that I'm bisexual. And if there aren't, like, if you are listening to this right now and you know me personally and you did not know I was bisexual until you listened to this, well, now you know. I mean, it's not like I'm going to go out of my way to send out a newsletter and be like, hey, I'm bisexual. But just like, if it comes up in conversation where like stuff like sexuality or whatever is the topic, chances are I'll bring up like that I'm bisexual in that. And my reason for not like telling people now at this point is just because I'm not going to like go out of my way and wear on my sleeve bisexual. Like, no, I'm a human being just like everyone else. And I don't think I need to like preface that. You know, that feels wrong. And if you didn't know and you feel differently about me as a human being now, well, fuck you. That's all there is to say. Yeah, fuck you. If that's that hard to handle, all right. Because yeah, I mean, there's no time for that. You know, I mean, I get it that like some people are still adjusting to that, but if you can't accept that someone that you know sexually identifies as something other than straight, all right, then you need to go and spend a lot of time getting used to society, because this is just going to become so much more normalized. And it's not really because, you know, I don't think that there's suddenly a lot more people that identify as LGBTQ plus now as there ever used to be. Like, I don't think that's a product of, you know, just new people being born that way or whatever. It's just like the fact that it's become more accepted in society, and therefore more people feel comfortable with that. Like, if you've ever watched an O.J. Simpson documentary, they talk about O.J.'s dad and how O.J.'s dad was gay, and that was a whole big scandal. You know, I would never in a million years come out as a bisexual human being if it was going to be a big scandal. I'm sorry, but I just never would. It would be so under wraps. So under wraps. Like, in my mind, it'd be like, oh, this guy's attractive, whatever. But, you know, like now at this point, I feel comfortable with it. And it's funny, like, I've become so comfortable with it, like, even in my mind, I feel more comfortable about it, which is really, really nice to have. Like, never before was I able to, like, watch movies and be like, God, like, this guy is really hot, and like leave a movie and be like, feel like the attractive people I saw weren't necessarily women, they were men. Like, I never used to be able to do that, but now I'm like, it's like eye candy. which is kind of sick. Like you go, you go into something like a movie now as me, like everything's eye candy. Like Bullet Train, you had Brad Pitt and like Zazie Beetz, and then like Ryan. I almost spoiled the cameo. But certain cameo where he's in it for like one shot, but sheesh, that's a very well made one shot, or well done one shot. But yeah, so that's just like how it is, right? And I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy I'm able to comfortably be able to say that I am bisexual, and that makes me very happy. And I hope that other people can get there too if they aren't already. So anyways, if you do not want to hear me now going a little spiel about movies, this is where I suggest you take off. So yeah, thank you for tuning in to those people, and yeah, I'm gonna spiel about movies now. So last Friday, I went and I saw two movies. I saw Bullet Train at 7 o'clock in IMAX, and then I saw Nope by Jordan Peele. And so let's just get Bullet Train out of the way. Bullet Train is filled with gorgeous people. I was just like looking at it and I was just like, wow, like it's a nice looking movie. Actually, about the movie, it's really fun action. I thought the action was done really well. I think the comedy for me landed, especially Aaron Taylor Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry. Their two characters, Lemon and Clementine, or sorry, Lemon and Tangerine, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious, those two. Probably the best part of the movie was those two, but Pitt was a really good action lead. I think the action itself was really well done. It was nice. It was stylistic, or a little bit stylistic. Again, it's fun action, and I think when you want to go see a movie like Bullet Train, that's part of it. Especially when like you don't have a John Wick coming out this year, you don't have a Mission Impossible or James Bond or something like that. Like this is the big kind of fun action movie of the year, and it's Bullet Train, and I think Bullet Train does well. I think might be a little too funny for some people. Personally, I think that Bullet Train was great for me because I saw that and then I saw Nope, which are very drastically different. So yeah, I mean, Bullet Train, I gave it a solid 7 out of 10. I know a lot of people didn't really like Bullet Train. They thought it wasn't really for them. They thought it was too funny, or they didn't really think the action was great, or they thought that the plot was too convoluted or something like that. I honestly felt it was pretty simple because it all took place in one setting mostly. And I would say if there's a plot that was like this that took place in multiple settings, then you get confused. But because this plot really takes place on one train, it simplifies one of the aspects of a movie about you, and that's keeping up with where a character is. So in that case, I think that this movie did a good job. I mean, the only time that you had to keep up with where characters were at the beginning and end. And like in flashbacks, characters weren't, going to be on the train every single time in a flashback. But aside from that, like everything's on the train, which I think is really good. The one big complaint is like there's something at the end, a person's revealed, and it's supposed to be some cool moment, and it doesn't land at all. Like, not at all. They try making it some cool moment. It's not a cool moment. I just kind of wish that the characters showed up and they didn't like suddenly try to add some stuff in to play it up, because like there was no mystery about who this person was. Like we didn't know who the person was, but there was never mystery about it anyways. So it was just like, well, what was the point of you suddenly trying to make it look like it's some big deal that there's a face behind the voice, you know? And if you've watched the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, 7 out of 10. And finally is Nope. Oh my God. Nope is I need to sit on it a little longer, but it is the third or fourth best movie I've seen this year. It comes short of Everything Everywhere All at Once and The Batman. But it is really tossing up with me with Top Gun Maverick. That and Top Gun Maverick and Nope are like that. They are flip-flopping in my mind right now, and I'm just like which one? Like, I'm leaning towards Top Gun. I think Top Gun is excellent. It's exquisite, but so is Nope, man. Nope is fantastic. Jordan Peele, this is probably his best movie, honestly. I think Nope might be better than Get Out. And the cinematography, something about Jordan Peele movies has been that when it comes to the cinematography, it kind of takes a backdrop. A lot of it is about the plot and the suspense and things like that. And the cinematography, it's nothing crazy. You know, it's just kind of bare bones, whatever. But here in Nope, the cinematography is a whole different experience than anything that you've ever really felt before. It's like the Batman in that sense, where like I when watching the Batman, I felt like that cinematography was different than anything I'd ever felt before. It's like that, but it's a different kind of cinematography. It's not like it's the same at all. It's because of like these shots that go up towards the sky and the way the camera moves, the way it lingers on certain shots. It's eerie and it's beautifully crafted. Every single shot, really, of this film is gorgeous in one way or another. And I think that it's satirical commentary on always having to document stuff, always having to, you know, get stuff out on social media. Like, it's fantastic. And the way that it is solved at the end, the way it's resolved at the ending, I think is incredible and beautiful. I know that there's other themes that are interwoven into this. It's not just the one satire, but that's the bit that I felt the most on my first viewing. Now, the second this goes to VOD, I am going to be watching this again. I don't think I'm going to watch it in the theaters again, just for the sake of saving some money, because I see a lot of movies again in the theater when that adds up, man. It adds up. It's not fun. So I don't think I'm going to do it for Nope for the sake of saving myself from myself. But Nope is incredible. And it possesses... It's not a horror movie. It's more of a thriller. But the scary moments of this, one of them in particular, is the scariest scene in a movie I have seen in my entire life. I have not watched too many horror movies. I'm not too familiar with horror. But this one scene, and you might, if you've seen it, you might know what I'm talking about. It's around the middle of the film. It's like, tail end of the second act ish. It is it I don't even know. Words are not enough. Sorry, I'm tired. Words are not enough to describe the horror I felt within my veins. It was ingrained within me, this immense sense of terror like I've never felt in my entire life. I kid you not. So, yeah, go and see Nope. And also, unlike the comedy in Bullet Train, where the comedy is all over the place, whatever, like, Nope, the comedy is scattered. And when it's there, it's probably the best comedy in a narrative film so far this entire year. The funny moments are the funniest moments in film this entire year, and that makes sense. Jordan Peele is fucking hilarious. But his mind is also obviously fucking terrifying. But yeah, anyways, go and see Nope. If you want a fun action movie, go and see Bullet Train. And yeah, with that being it, I will catch you guys all in the next episode. Stay safe out there, folks.